Hello, today we are going to read Harriet's Web. Chapter 1. Before Breakfast. "Where's Papa going with that axe?" said Fern to her mother as they were setting the table for breakfast. "Out to the hog house," replied Mrs. Orble. "Some pigs were born last night." "I don't see why he need an axe," continued Fern, who was only 8. "Well," said her mother, "one of the pigs is a runt. He's very small and weak, and it will never amount to anything. So your father has decided to do away with it." "Do away with it?" shrieked Fern. "You mean kill it, just because it's smaller than others?" Mrs. Orble put a pitcher of cream on the table. "Don't yell, Fern," she said. "Your father is right. The pig would probably die anyway." Fern pushed a chair out of the way and ran outdoors. The grass was wet and the earth smelled of springtime. Fern's sneakers were sopping by the time she caught up with her father. "Please don't kill it," she sobbed. "It's unfair." Mr. Orwell stopped walking. "Fern," he said gently, "you will have to learn to control yourself." "Control myself?" yelled Fern. "This is a matter of life and death, and you talk about controlling myself." Tears ran down her cheeks and she took hold of the axe and tried to pull it out of her father's hand. "Fern," said Mr. Orble, "I know more about raising a litter of pigs than you do. A weakling makes trouble. Now run along." "But this is unfair," cried Fern. "The pig could not help being born small, could it? If I had been very small at birth, would you have killed me?" Mr. Orble smiled. "Certainly not," he said, looking down at his daughter with love. "But this is different. A little girl is one thing, a little runty pig is another." "I see no difference," replied Fern, still hanging on to the axe. "This is the most terrible case of injustice I ever heard of." A queer look came over John Orble's face. He seemed almost ready to cry himself. "All right," he said. "You go back to the house and I'll bring the runt when I come in. I'll let you start it on the bottle like a baby. Then you'll see what trouble a pig can be." When Mr. Orble returned to the house half an hour later, he carried a cartoon under his arm. Fern was upstairs changing her sneakers. The kitchen table was set up for breakfast, and the room smelled of coffee, bacon, damp plaster, and wood smoke from the stove. "Put it on our chair," said Mrs. Orble. Mr. Orble set a carton down at Fern's place. Then he walked to the sink and washed his hands and dried them in the roller towel. Fern came slowly downstairs. Her eyes were red from crying. As she approached her chair, the curtain wobbled and there was a scratching noise. Fern looked at her father. Then she lifted the lid of the cartoon. There inside, looking up at her, was a newborn pig. It was a white one. The morning light shone through his ears, turning them pink. "He's yours, said Mr. Orble, safe from an untimely death. And may the God Lord forgive me for his foolishness." Fern could not take her eyes off the tiny pig. "Oh," she whispered. "Oh, look at him. He's absolutely perfect." She closed the cartoon carefully. First she kissed her father, then kissed her mother. Then she opened the lid again, lifted the pig out, and held it against her cheek. At this moment her brother Avery came down the room. Avery was 10. He was heavily armed an air rifle in one hand, a wooden dragger on the other. "What's that?" he demanded. "What Fern got?" "She got a guest for breakfast," says Mrs. Arbo. "Wash your hands and face, Avery." "Let's see it," says Avery, setting his gun down. "You call that a miserable thing a pig? It's a specimen of pig is no bigger than a white rat." "Wash up and eat your breakfast, Avery," said his mother. "The school bus will be along in half an hour." "Can I have a pig too, Pop?" asked Avery. "No, I only distribute pigs to only risers," said Mr. Arbo. Fern was up at daylight trying to get rid the world of injustice. As a result, now she got a pig. A small one, to be sure, but nevertheless a pig. It just shows what happens if a person gets out of the bag promptly. "Let's eat." But Fern couldn't eat until her pig had a drink of milk. Mrs. Arbo found a baby's nursing bowl and a rubber nipple. She poured the warm milk into the bottle, fitted in the nip of the top, and handed it to Fern. "Give him his breakfast," she said. A minute later, Fern was sitting at the floor at the corner of the kitchen with her infant between her knees, pitching to suck from the bottle. The pig, although tiny, had a good appetite and caught on quickly. The school bus honked from the road. "Run," commanded Mrs. Arbo, taking our pig from Fern and slipping a donut into her hands. Avery grabbed his gun and another donut. The children ran out into the road and climbed into the bus. Fern took no notice of the other at the bus. She just sat and stared out the window, thinking what a blissful world it was and how lucky she was to have an entire church of the pig. By the time Buzz reached school, Fern has a name for a pet, selecting the most beautiful name she could think of. "Its name is Wilbur," she whispered to herself. She was thinking about the pig when teacher said Fern was the capital of Pennsylvania. "Wilbur," said Fern dreamily. The pupil giggled. Fern blushed. Chapter 2. Wilbur. Fern loved Wilbur more than anything. She loved to stroke him, to feed him, to put him into bed. Every morning, as soon as she got up, she warmed his milk, tied his bib on, and held the bottle for him. Every afternoon, when the school bus stopped in front of her house, she jumped out into the kitchen to fix another bottle for him. She fed him again supper time and again just before going to bed. Mrs. Arbo gave him a feeding around noontime each day. When Fern was away in school, Wilbur loved his milk. And he was never happier than when Fern was warming up a bottle for him. He would stand up and gaze up her eyes with adoring eyes. For his first few days of his life, Wilbur was allowed to live in a box near the stove in the kitchen. Then when Mrs. Arbo complained, he was moved to a bigger box in the woodshed. At 2 weeks of age, he was moved outdoors. It was apple blossom time, and the days were getting warmer. Mr. Arbo fixed a small yard especially for Wilbur under the apple tree, and gave him a large wooden box of straw with a doorway cut so he could walk in and out as he pleased. "Won't he cold at night?" asked Fern. "No," said his father. "You watch what he does." Carrying a bowl of milk, Fern sat down under the apple tree inside the yard. Wilbur ran to her and she held the bottle for him while he sucked. When he had finished the last drop, he grunted and walked safely into the box. Fern peered through the door. Wilbur was poking the straw with his snout. In a short time he dug a tunnel in the straw. He crawled into the tunnel and disappeared from the sight, completely covering with straw. Fern was enchanted. It relieved her mind to know that her baby would sleep covered up and would stay warm. Every day morning after breakfast, Wilbur walked out to the road with Fern and waited with her till the bus came. She would wave goodbye to him, and he would stand and watch the bus until it vanished around the turn. While Fern was in school, Wilbur was shut up inside his yard. But as soon as she got home in the afternoon, she would take him out and would follow her around the place. If she went into the house, Wilbur went too. If she went upstairs, Wilbur would wait in the bottom steps until she came down again. If she took her dog for a walk in a dog carriage, Wilbur followed along. Sometimes these journeys, Wilbur would get tired. Fern would pick him up and put him in a carriage along the dog, like this. And if he was very tired, he would close his eye and go to sleep under Dog's blanket. He looked cute when his eyes were closed. Because his lashes were too long, the dog would close their eyes too. The Fern will wear the carriage very slowly and smoothly so as not to wake her infants. One warm afternoon, Fern and Avery put on a bathing suit and went down to the brook for a swim. Wilbur tagged along in Fern's heel. When he waded into the brook, Wilbur waded with her. He found the water was quite cold, too cold for his liking. So while the children swam and played and splashed in the water at each other, Wilbur amused himself in the mug at the edge of the brook, where it was warm and mossy and delightfully sticky and oozy. Every time was a happy day. Every night was peaceful. Wilbur was the farmer's called spring pig, which simply means he was born in springtime. When he was 5 weeks old, Mr. Arbuckle said he was now big enough to sell, and would have to be sold. Fern broke down and wept, but her father was firm about it. Wilbur's appetite has increased. He was beginning to eat scraps of food in addition to milk. Mr. Arbuckle was not willing to prove for him any longer. He had already sold Wilbur's 10 brothers and sisters. "He got to go, Fern," he said. "You have your fun raising the baby pig, but Wilbur is not a baby any longer, and he got to be sold." "Cut up the jockermans," suggested Mrs. Arbuckle to Fern. "Your Uncle Homer sometimes raises a pig, and if Wilbur goes there to live, you can walk down the road to visit him often as you like." "How much money I'll ask for him?" Fern wanted to know. "Well," said her father, "he's a runt. Tell your Uncle Homer you got a pig and you'll sell for $6, and see what he says." It was noon orange, but Fern phoned and got her Aunt Edith, and her Aunt Edith hollered for Uncle Homer. Uncle Homer came down from the barn and talked to Fern. When he heard the price was only $6, he said he would buy the pig. Next day, Wilbur was taken from his home under the apple tree and went to live in a manure pile in a cell of Sucker's barn. Chapter 3. Escape. The barn was very large. It was very old. It smelled of hay and it smelled of manure. It smelled of the preparation of tied horse and a wonderful sweet breath of patient cows. It often had a sort of peaceful smell, as though nothing bad could happen ever again in the world. It grease and of rubber boots and a new rope, and whether the cat was giving the fish head to eat, the barn will smell of fish. But mostly it smelled of hay, for there always hay in the great loft overhead, and there was always hay being pitched down to the cows and the horse and the sheep. The barn was pleasantly warm in the winter, and when the animals spent the most of their time indoors, it was pleasantly cool in the summer when the big doors stood wide open to the breeze. The barn has stall in the main floor for the work horse, tied up in the main floor for the cows, a sheepfold down for the sheep, a peeping down for Wilbur, and it was full of all sorts of things that you could find in the barns: ladder, grindstones, pitchforks, monkey wrenches, skiddies, lawn of mowers, snow shovels, axe handles, milk pails, water buckets, and empty grain sacks. It was runty, rat-strapped. It was kind of the barn that Stalwart liked to build their nest in. It was kind of the barn that the children liked to play in, and the whole thing was owned by Fern's uncle, Mr. Homer L. Zuckerman. Wilbur's new home was in the lower part of the barn, directly under the cows. Mr. Zuckerman knew the manure pile is a good place to keep a young pig. Pig needs warmth, and it was warm and comfortable down there in the barn cell in the south side. Fern came almost every day to visit him. She found an old milking stool that has been declared. She placed the stool in the sheepfold next to Wilbur's pen. Here she sat quietly during the long afternoon, thinking and listening and watching Wilbur. The sheep soon got to know her and trust her. So did the geese who lived with the sheep. All animals trust her. She was so quiet and friendly, Mr. Zuckerman did not allow her to take Wilbur out, and he did not allow her to get in the pig pen. But he told Fern that he could sit on the stool and watch Wilbur as long as he wanted to. It made her happy, and near the pig, it made Wilbur happy to know he was sitting there, right outside his hen. But he never had fun. No walks, no ride, no swim. One afternoon in June, when Wilbur was almost 2 months old, he wandered out into his small yard outside the barn. Fern has not arrived for her usual visit. Wilbur stood in the sun, feeling lonely and bored. There's never anything to do around here, he thought. He walked slowly to his food and sniffed to see if anything has been overlooked at lunch. He found a small stripe of potato skin and ate it. His back itched, so he leaned against the fence and rubbed the boards. When he tried to his pace, he walked indoors, climbed the top of the manure pile, and sat down. He didn't feel like going to sleep. He didn't feel like digging. He was tired of standing still, tired of lying down. I'm less than 2 months old and I'm tired of living, he said. He walked down to the yard again. When I'm out here, he said, there's no place to go but in. But when I'm out indoors, there's no place to go but out in the yard. That's where you're wrong, my friend, said the voice. Wilbur looked through the fence and saw the goose standing there. You don't have to stay in the dirty little yard, said the goose, who talked rather fast. One of the boards is loose. Push it. Push on it and come on out. What? Said Wilbur. Say it slower. At the risk of replying myself, said the goose, I suggest that you come out. It's wonderful out here. Did you say the board was loose? That I did, said the goose. Wilbur walked up to the fence and saw that the goose was right. One board was loose. He put his head down, shut his eyes, and pushed. The board gave it away. In a minute he had squeezed through the fence and was standing in the long grass outside his yard. His goose chuckled. How does it feel to be free? She said. I like it, said Wilbur. That is, I guess I like it. Actually, Wilbur felt queer to be outside his fence, with nothing between him and the big world. Where do you think I better go? Anything where you like. Anywhere you like, said the goose. Go down to the orchard, root up the sod, go down to the garden, dig up the radish, root up everything, eat grass, look for corn, look for oat, run over, skip and dance, jump and prance, go around the orchard and squirrel in the wood. The world is a wonderful place when you're alone. I can see that, replied Wilbur. He gave a jump in the air, turned in ran a few steps, stopped, looked all around, sniffed in the smell of afternoon, then set off walking down to the orchard, pushing in shade of an apple tree. He put his strong snout into the ground and began pushing, digging and rooting. He felt very happy. He plowed off the quiet piece of the ground before anyone noticed him. Mrs. Zuckerman was the first to see him. She saw him from the kitchen window, and she immediately shouted for the man. Homer, she cried. Pigs out, lovely, pigs out, Homer, lovely, pigs out. He's down there under that apple tree. Now the trouble starts, thought Wilbur. Now I'll catch it. The goose heard the racket and she too started hollering. Run downstairs, make for the wood. The wood, she shouted to Wilbur. They will never catch you in the woods. The cocker spaniel heard the commotion and he ran up the barn to join the chase. Mr. Zuckerman heard, and he came in the machine shed where he was mending a tool. Largely, the hired man heard the noise and came up to the asparagus patch where he was pulling the weed. Everyone walked toward Wilbur, and Wilbur did not know what to do. The wood seemed a long way off, and anyways, he had never been down there, the wood, and wasn't sure would like it. Get around behind him, lovely, said Mr. Zuckerman, and drive him toward the barn. And take it easy, don't rush him. I'll go and get a bucket of slops. The news of Wilbur's escape spread rapidly among the animals to place. Whenever any creature broke loose on Zuckerman's farm, the event was of great interest to the other. The goose shouted in the nearest cow that Wilbur was free, and soon the cows knew that Wilbur was free, and all of the cows knew. Then one of the cows told the sheep, and soon all the sheep knew. The lambs learned that about from their mother. The horse, the stall in the barn, pricked up their ears when they go to the goose's hollering, and soon the horses had caught on what was happening. "Wilbur's out," they said. Every animal stirred and lifted his head and became excited to know that one of his friends had gone free and was no longer pent up or tied fast. Wilbur didn't know what to do, which way to run. It seems as though anybody was with him. If this thing is what it's like to be free, he thought, I believe I'd rather be penned up in my own yard. The Cockerman Spaniel was speaking up to him from the side. Lively had hired the man sneaking up to him from the other side. Mrs. Zuckerman stood ready to head him off as he started for the garden, and now Mr. Zuckerman was coming down towards him carrying a pail. This is really awful, thought Wilbur. Why doesn't Fern come? He began to cry. The goose took command and began to give orders. Don't just stand there, Wilbur. Dodge out, cried Wilbur. Skip around toward me. In and out, in and out, in and out. She made for the woods, twist and turn. The cocker sprang for Wilbur's hind leg. Wilbur jumped and ran. Lively reached out and grabbed. Mrs. Zuckerman screamed at Lively. The goose shot for Wilbur. Wilbur dodged between Lively's legs. Lively missed Wilbur and grabbed the spaniel instead. Nicely done, cried the goose. Try it again. Run downstairs. Downhill, suggested Cows. Run towards me, yelled the gander. Run up the hill, cried the sheep. Turn and twist, honked the rooster. Jump and dance, said Rooster. Yes, you make a good pig, said Mr. Zuckerman. Wilbur heard the words of praise. He felt warm milk inside his stomach. He felt pleasant rubbing of the stick among his itchy back. He felt peaceful and happy and sleepy. This had been a tiring afternoon. It was still only about 4 o'clock, but Wilbur was ready for bed. I'm really too old to go out into the world alone, he thought as he lay down. Chapter 4. Loneliness. The next day was raining and dark. Rain fell off on the roof of the barn and dripped steadily from the eave. Rain fell in the barnyard and ran in crooked course down into the lane where twist and pigweed grew. Rain sputtered against Mrs. Zuckerman's kitchen windows and came gushing down in the downspouts. Rain spilled on the back of the sheep as they grazed in the meadow. When the sheep tried of standing in the rain, they walked slowly up to the lane and into the fold. Rain upset Wilbur's plan. Wilbur had planned to go out this day and dig a new hole in his yard. He had other plans too. His plan for the day went coming like this. Breakfast at 6:30, skim milk, crushed middling bits of donut, wheat cake with a drop of maple syrup sticking to them, potato skins left over, custard pudding with raisin, and bits of shredded wheat. Breakfast would finish at 7. From 7 to 8, Wilbur planned to have a talk with Templeton. The rat lived under his roof. Talking with Templeton was not the most interesting occupation in the world, but it was better than nothing. From 8 to 9, Wilbur planned to take a nap outdoor in the sun. From 9 to 11, he planned to dig a hole or trench and possibly find something good to eat buried down the dirt. From 11 to 12, he planned to stand still and watch fires on the board, watch bees in the clover, and watch swallows in the air. 12 o'clock, lunchtime. Middling warm water, apple parings, meat gravy, carrot scraping, meat scraps, still homely, and a wrapper of packages of cheese. Lunch would be never at home. From 1 to 2, Wilbur planned to sleep. From 2 to 3, he planned to scratch itchy places from rubbing back against the fence. From 3 to 4, he planned to stay perfectly still and think of what it was like to be alive, and to wait for firm. At 4 came supper. Skim milk, proverbial leftover sandwich from Larry's lunchbox, prune skins, a more of this, a bit of that, fried potatoes, marmalade drippings, a little more of like this, a little more of like that, a piece of baked apples, a scrape of upside-down cake. Wilbur has gone to sleep thinking about this plan. He awoke at 6 and saw the rain. It seems though he couldn't bear it. I get all beautifully planned out and it has to go and rain, he said. For a while he stayed gloomy indoors. Then he walked to the door and looked out. Drops of rain stuck his face. His yard was cold and wet. He threw an inch of the rainwater in it. Templeton has nowhere to be seen. "Are you out there, Templeton?" called Wilbur. There was no answer. Suddenly Wilbur felt lonely and friendless. "One day just like another," he groaned. "I'm very young. I have no friends here on the bar. It's going to rain all morning, all afternoon, and Fern won't come in such a bad weather." "Oh, honestly," said Wilbur, was crying again. For the second time in 2 days. At 6:30, Wilbur heard a banging of the pails. Lively was standing outside in the rain, stirring up breakfast. "Come on, Pig," said Lively. Wilbur would not budge. Lively dumped the slop, scrubbed the pail, and walked away. He noticed that something was wrong with the pig. Wilbur didn't want food. He wanted love. He wanted a friend someone could play with him. He mentioned this to the goose, who was sitting quietly in the sheepfold. "Will you come over and play with me?" he asked. "Sorry, Sonny, sorry," said the goose. "I'm sitting on my egg. 8 of them. I got them to be toasty warm. I have to stay right here. I'm the flippity gibbet. I do not play where there are eggs to hatch. I'm expecting gooselings." "Well, I didn't think you were expecting a woodpecker," said Wilbur bitterly. Wilbur tried one of the lambs. "Will you please play with me?" he said. "Certainly not," said the lamb. "In the first place, I cannot get your pen, as I'm not old enough to jump the fence. In the second place, I'm not interested in pigs. Pigs mean less than nothing to me." "What do you mean less than nothing?" replied Wilbur. "I don't think there's any such thing less than nothing. Nothing is absolutely the limit of nothingness. The lowest you can go is the end of the line. How can something be less than nothing? If there were something that was less than nothing, then nothing would be nothing, and it will be something even though it was very little bit of something. But if nothing is nothing, then nothing has nothing that is less than it is. Okay, be quiet, said the lad. Go and play yourself. I don't play with the pigs. Sadly, Wilbur lay down and listened to the rain. Soon he saw the rat climbing down a standing board that he used as a stairway. Will you play with me, Templeton? Asked Wilbur. Play, said Templeton through his whisker. Play, I hardly know the meaning of the word. Well, said Wilbur, it means to have fun, to frolic, to run around and skip and make merry. I never do those things if I can avoid them, replied the rat sourly. I prefer to spend my time eating garlics, spying, and hiding. I'm a gardener, and I'm not a merry maker. Right now, I am on my way to go through to eat your breakfast, since you haven't got the sense to eat yourself, said Templeton the rat, crept steadily along the walls and disappeared into the private tunnel that he dug between the door and through. In Wilbur's yard. Templeton was a crafty rat, and he had a thing pretty much his own way. The tunnel had example of his skill and cunning. The tunnel enabled him to get from the barn to his hiding place under the pig through without coming out into the open. He had tunnels and a runaway all over the Zuckerman's farm, and could get from one place to another without being seen. Usually he slept during the daytime and was abroad only after dark. Wilbur watched him disappear into his tunnel. In a moment he saw the rat's sharp nose poked out from underneath the wooden door. Cautiously, Templeton pulled himself up over the edge of the door. This was almost more than Wilbur could stand. On his daily raining days, to see his breakfast being eaten by somebody else. He knew Templeton was getting salted out there in the pouring rain, but even that didn't comfort him. Friendless, dejected, and hungry, he threw himself down in the manure and sobbed. Late that afternoon, Lovely went to Mr. Zuckerman. I think there's something wrong with the pig of yours. He hasn't touched the food. Give him 2 spoons of supper and a little molasses, said Mr. Zuckerman. Wilbur could not believe what happened to him when Lovely caught him and forced the medicine down his throat. It was certainly the worst day of his life. He didn't know whether he could endure the awful loneliness any more. Darkness settled over everything. Soon there was only shadows, the noise of the sheep chewing their cuds, occasionally rat of the cow chain up overhead. You can imagine Wilbur's surprise when out of the darkness came a small voice he had never heard before. It sounded rather thin but pleasant. Do you want a friend, Wilbur? It said. I'll be a friend to you. I watch you every day, and I like you. But I can see you, said Wilbur, jumping to his feet. Where were you, and who were you? I'm right up here, said the voice. Go to sleep. You'll see me in the morning. Chapter 5. Charlotte. The night seemed long. Wilbur's stomach was empty and his mind was full. And when your stomach is empty and your mind is full, it's always hard to sleep. A dozen times during the night, Wilbur woke up and stared into the blackness, listening to the sound and trying to figure what the time it is. The barn was never perfectly quiet. Even in the midnight, there was usually something stirring. The first time he awoke, he heard Templeton gawning at the hole at the grain bin. Templeton's teeth scraped loudly against the wood and made quite a racket. That crazy rat, thought Wilbur. Why does he have to stay all night grinding his clashes and destroying people's property? Why can't he go to sleep like any decent animals? On second time Wilbur awoke, he heard the goose turning her nest and chuckling to himself. What time is it? Whispered Wilbur to the goose. Probably doing at 11:30, said the goose. Why don't you sleep, Wilbur? Too much things on my mind, said Wilbur. Well, said the goose, it's not my trouble. I've nothing at all in my mind, but I've too many under my behinds. Have you ever tried to sleep while you're sitting on your 8 eggs? No, replied Wilbur. I suppose it's uncomfortable. How long does it take a goose egg to hatch? Approximately 30 days, I told, answering the goose. But I cheat a little. On warmer afternoons, I just pull a little straw over the egg and go for a walk. Wilbur yawned and went back to sleep. In his dream, he heard again the voice saying, I'll be a friend to you. Go to sleep. You'll be seen in the morning. About half an hour before dawn, Wilbur woke up and listened. The barn was still dark. The sheep lay motionless. Even the goose was quiet. Overhead, on the main floor, nothing stirred. The cows were resting. The horse dozed. Templeton has quit work and gone off somewhere on an errand. Only the sound was a slight scraping noise from the rooftop, where the weather vane swung back and forth. Wilbur loved the barn when it was like this, calm and quiet, waiting for the light. Day is almost day. Here, he thought. Through the small window, a faint gleam appeared. One by one, the stars went out. Wilbur could see the goose a few feet away. She sat with the head tucked under the wings. Then he could see the sheep and the lambs. The sky lightened. Oh, beautiful day! It is here last. Today I shall find my friend. Wilbur looked everywhere. He searched his pen thoroughly. Examined the window edge, staring up the ceiling, but he saw nothing new. Finally, he decided he would have to speak up. He hated to break the lovely stillness of the dawn using his voice, but he couldn't think of any other ways to locate the mysterious new friend who was nowhere to be seen. So Wilbur cleared his throat. Attention, please, he said in a loud, firm voice. Will the party who dressed me at bedtime last night kindly making me or herself known by giving me appropriate sign or signal? Wilbur paused and listened. All the animals lifted their heads and stared at me. Wilbur blushed, but he was determined to get in touch with his unknown friend. "Attention, please," he said. "I repeat the message. Will the party who addressed me at bedtime last night kindly speak up? Please tell me where you are and if you are my friend." Sheep looked at each other in disgust. "Shut your nonsense, Wilbur," said all the sheep. "If you had a friend here, you're probably disturbing his rest. And the quickest way to spoil your friendship is to wake somebody in the morning before he is ready. How can you sure your friend is an early riser?" "I beg everyone's pardon," whispered Wilbur. "I didn't mean to objectionable." He lay down meekly in the manure facing the door. He didn't know it, but his friend was very near. And old sheep was right. The friend was still asleep. Soon Lively appeared with a slop for his breakfast. Wilbur roused out, ate everything in a hurry, and licked the drool. The sheep moved over to the lane. The gander waded down behind him, pulling grass. And then, just as Wilbur was setting down for his morning nap, he heard again a thin voice that had addressed him the night before. "Salutations," said the voice. Wilbur jumped to his feet. "What?" he cried. "Salutation," replied the voice. "What were they and where were you?" screamed Wilbur. Please tell me where you are and what are salutations." "Salutations is greetings," said the voice. "When I say salutation, it's my fancy way to saying hello or good morning. Actually, it's a silly expression, and I'm surprised that I use it all. For my whereabouts is easy. Just look here in the corner of the doorway. Here I am. Look, I'm waving." At last Wilbur saw the creature that had spoken to him in such a kindly way, stretched across the upper part of the doorway with the big spider web. Hanging from the door of the web, head down, was a large gray spider. He was about the size of the gumdrop. He has 8 legs, and he was waving one of them at Wilbur in a friendly greeting. "See me now?" she asked. "Oh, yes, indeed," said Wilbur. "Very indeed. How are you? Good morning. Salutations. Very pleased to meet you. What is your name, please? May I ask your name?" "My name," said Spiders, "is Chaelotte." "샬롯 what?" said Wilbur eagerly. "샬롯 a capita, but just call me Chaelotte." "I think you're beautiful," said Wilbur. "Well, I am pretty," replied Charlotte. "There's no denying that." Almost all spiders were rather nice looking. I'm not as flashy as some, but I'll do. I wish I could see you, Wilbur, as clearly as you can see me." "Why can't you?" asked the pig. "I'm right here." "Yes, but I'm nearsighted," replied Charlotte. I have always been dreadful and nearsighted. It's good to some ways, but not good in other. Watch me wrap up this fly. A fly that has been crawling along Wilbur's straw had flown up and blundered into the lowest part of Charlotte's web and was tangled into the sticky thread. The fly was beating its wing furiously, trying to break loose and free itself. First, said Charlotte, I dive at him. She put head first to the fly. As she dropped a tiny skillet thread, a wound from the rear end. Next, I wrapped him up. She grabbed the fly, threw the jut of silk around, then rolled over and over, wrapping it so that it couldn't move. Wilbur watched in horror. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. And although he detested flies, he was sorry for this one. There, said Charlotte. Now I'll knock him out so he'll be more comfortable. He beat the fly. He can't feel anything now, she remarked. She'll make a perfect breakfast for me. You mean you eat flies? Gasped Wilbur. Certainly, flies, bugs, grasshoppers, choice beetles, moths, butterflies, tasty crickets, gas, midge, daddy-long-leg, scientific mosquitoes, cricket, anything that is careless enough to get in my web. I have to leave, don't I? Well, yes, of course, said Wilbur. Do they taste good? Delicious, of course. I don't really eat them. I drink them. I drink their blood. I love blood, said Charlotte, in her pleasant thin voice grew even thinner and more pleasant. Don't say that, groaned Wilbur. Please don't say anything like that. Why not? It's true. I have to say what it is true. I'm not entirely happy of my diet of flies and bugs, but it's the way I'm made. A spider has to pick up living somehow or others, and I have to be a trapper. I just naturally build a web and trapped flies and other insects. My mother was a trapper before me. Her mother was a trapper before her. All of our family have been trappers. Way back from thousands and thousands years, we're spiders and have been laying for flies and bugs. It's a miserable existence, said Wilbur gloomily. He was sad because his new friend was so bloodthirsty. Yes, it is, agreed Charlotte, but I can't help it. I don't know how the first spider in the early days of the world happened to drink up these fancy ideas of spinning the web. But she did, and it was clever for her. And since then, all of the spiders have to work at the same tricks. It's not a bad pitch on the wall. It's cruel, replied Wilbur, who did not intend to be argued out of this position. Well, you can't talk, said Charlotte. You have your meals brought to the pail. Nobody feeds me. I have to get my own livings. I live by my wits. I have to be sharp and clever, lest I go hungry. I have to think things out, catch what I can, catch what comes, and it just so happens, my friend, that what comes is flies and insects and bugs, and furthermore, said Charlotte, shaking one of her eggs. Do you realize I didn't catch bugs and eat them? Bugs will increase and multiply to get enormous that they destroyed the earth and wiped out everything. Really, said Weber, I wouldn't want that to happen. Perhaps your web is a good thing after all. The goose has been listening to this conversation and chuckling to herself. There are lots of things Weber doesn't know about life, she thought. He's really innocent little pig. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him around Christmas time. He has no idea Mr. Juggleman and Living was plotting to kill him. And the goose raised herself, bit and poked her leg a little further more under her so that they could receive a full hit from her warm body and soft feathers. Chaelotte stood quietly over the fly, preparing to eat it. Weber lay down and closed his eyes. He was tired from a wakeful night and from the excitement of meeting someone for the first time. A breeze brought him a smell of clover, and sweet-smelling words could be on the fence. Well, he thought, I got is a new friend, all right. But what gamble friendship is. Charlotte is first brutal, screaming, bloodthirsty, everything I don't like. How I can learn to like her, even though she's pretty and, of course, clever. Weber was merely suffering the doubt and fears that often go with the finding new friends. In a good time, he was discovered that he was mistaken about Charlotte. Underneath her rather bold and cruel interior, she had the kind heart, and she was proved loyal and true to the very end. This is the last chapter I read today. See you the next time. Bye.